You're listening to the In the Mix podcast with Marvin Joles. Here's your host.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode. I'm really excited about this one. This gentleman and I connected last year via LinkedIn a little bit and have some mutual connections in the racing world. And we were kind of gearing up, hoping to do a podcast last year as 2024 was suspected to be a good year for this gentleman, Ryan Vargas. And I would agree that it did end up being an exceptional year. So Ryan is a 24-year-old Mexican-American NASCAR driver, 2018, 2019 NASCAR Next Class member, 2023 Comcast Community Champion of the Year. My guy just won the iRacing Talladega race, which was fun to see that one. But dude, mainly, I seen a lot of podium pictures this year.
Mm-hmm.
So give us a little bit into what 2024 looked like as far as your racing career.
Yeah, so 2024 was a big change. The last 5 years I've been racing in NASCAR Xfinity, NASCAR trucks, all across here in the States. And, while I absolutely love doing that and I hope to do it for many more years to come, I definitely wanted to change things up. And I got my premier partner, Critical Path Security, and Vargas Security. And we just kind of had the crazy idea of let's just go to Europe. Let's go run full time over there and see how this goes. It was a very successful year. If I were to go back and do things different, I absolutely would. But at the same time, it was a very strong campaign. My team did a fantastic job, and my crew did awesome all season long. We were always in podium contention within our class, which was great, especially considering I'm not a road course guy by trade, right? So
Right.
there was definitely it was definitely a challenge. Every time I ended up on the podium in our class, it was a earned. I would say maybe there was one that was definitely a Mickey Mouse one, but other than that, they were, I had to definitely fight for them. And even in that Mickey Mouse one, I had my wrist sprained on lap one. So it was, we had to fight through it, and we had the front end completely ripped away. So sure, it fell into our lap, so we had to finish the race, and we did it.
Well, you know me, dude. I always want to talk about pavement, which is weird, right? I'm a geek about that type of stuff. Obviously, did a little bit of quad racing and whatnot when I was younger, and it makes me think. So I have an affinity for the competition side of it, but also what all gets taken into effect. The pavement conditions. I have to ask about them, dude, because we have a friend of the podcast, James Rowe, who races Indy. And he'll talk about the differences between pavements in Europe versus the United States. Did you notice any difference in the European pavements versus the American ones?
The tracks I race on here in the States at the NASCAR level, they're very well maintained. So I would say that they're not too different. I would say the biggest differences were just from track to track.
Okay.
You had the track that we ran, Valencia in Spain. It was Spain, it's a very hot country, right? So track's very sun-baked. The pavement's very bright color, but also doesn't really have all that much grip. Versus you go to a track like we did in, I would say, like Germany, Oschersleben, and that track has plenty of grip.
Yeah.
And, it's, I wouldn't say it's always cloudy in Germany, but like both times I've been there, it's been, relatively cloudy, cooler temperatures. Temperatures are always going to affect the grip level. So, from track to track, there's differences, but more or less that's just because of the weather patterns, from what I understand.
Imagine if you never had to go look at a project again to know exactly what it's going to take to complete this thing. And you can also know whether or not a client is actually going to buy from you or not. Wouldn't that be awesome? You can do that. AI can do that. And there's a company that's utilizing that in order to make that possible. And that's FormView. So FormView has the homeowners take a video. This video gets sent into the software. And based on that video, FormView provides contractors with details of the work required. So a scope summary. And the AI also generates an analysis of the project requirement. and it gives you the buyer intent score. So this helps gauge the likelihood that a homeowner or project manager is going to move forward with the project. Then you don't have to make these trips out. If you have 10 quotes each day, you don't have to actually go to them. You can just go to Form View and see the video, interact with the AI, and then decide whether or not you're going to pursue this. Send them over an intelligent scope of work on your quote, and it really helps save you time overall. So go to formvue.com and check out FormView and see what they're doing over there. When we talk about pavements, right? Do you notice that on newer pavements, you get a lot more grip, and the older pavements where it's a little more coarse, you're going to be sliding a little bit more? Is that what we see?
Yeah, I mean, newer pavement is always way more grippy. It takes a little bit for it to come in, but once it does, it's lightning fast. One of the fastest tracks in NASCAR right now is Texas Motor Speedway, and that track was freshly repaved in 2017, and I got to go there in 2020. So it's still relatively, fresh. And
Yeah.
I remember going through turns 3 and 4 there in the NASCAR Xfinity car, and you're barely lifting off the throttle going through the corner there. You're hauling tail through there. It is so fast, so grippy. But at the same time, when it's really grippy like that, the threshold for spinning, the traction threshold, I guess you could say, is much smaller because you're already at such a limit of the tire,
Okay.
so that you're already at a state of yaw that is exceeding what's normal. So if it breaks loose on you, you're gonna crash.
Yeah.
And I've almost crashed in that corner a couple times. Luckily, I've been able to save it. But that corner is specifically very treacherous because then you can go watch any race today and it's still like that. So it's kind of one of those things where, older pavement allows you to slide around and move around a lot, whereas newer pavement, you could carry way more speed, but the threshold for, how what you can do, what you have control of is a lot lower.
When it comes to the abilities of making moves, right? Whether we're passing or passing the outside, the inside, or whatever it would be, how big of a deal is it when it comes to the age of the pavement or the condition of it? Because I feel like if you can grip up a little bit like it is at Texas, you have a little more confidence in making a move and knowing that you're probably going to be all right, especially in congestion. Is that true?
Actually, the ones that are more gritty and older, you feel more confident in being able to make moves.
Really?
Yes, because you're carrying less speed, so you have more opportunity to change your line, change direction, change all these things. Like Kansas Speedway is a track that was repaved. I want to say it was late 2011, early 2012. It was repaved, and now it's at the point where it's well aged. It's a multi-groove surface, so every lane has more banking. So from the bottom is 1 degree, like a certain amount of degrees, and then it gets more and more banked as you get up.
Oh, okay.
But because of the track and it having that age to it, it's actually very wide and very racy. Same thing kind of goes for Vegas.
Yeah.
Vegas has always been a very fast racetrack, surprisingly, considering it's in the middle of the desert. But that's another one. And then obviously Darlington Raceway, it has a very old, very gritty surface, and lap times drop, 2 seconds at a time there. But that allows you to move around and make more passes.
When we talk about pavement, and we're talking about asphalt pavement most of the time, you and I have so far where we're talking about it aging and the conditions being different and things being repaved. What about in Europe when you raced over there? Where this is pretty prevalent, I've noticed over there versus here. Sometimes there's combinations of concrete and asphalt on different types of tracks. Does that have to come into account at all when you're racing? Of like, hey, now we're on concrete, now we're on asphalt, because I would imagine the pavement temperature changes when you have a black surface versus a gray surface. Does that come into account at all?
So more or less, yes. So like 2 tracks on the NASCAR circuit here, Dover and Bristol, they're both concrete tracks versus pavement.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they're both, yeah. So those 2 tracks are concrete. So the way you go into there, the front end geometry you do on those cars are a lot different. I remember when we went to Dover, we went there with we like to call it a pigtail setup. It's basically allows the spring to compress a lot more and, kind of lock into place better. Instead of being, left front pigtailed or right front pigtailed, you go to Bristol or Dover double pigtailed, and you get the nose down and you keep it down, and allows it to do that. And those tracks are very grippy. That's one thing you'll find about those places is it kind of reminds you a little bit more of that Texas feel, where there's, that threshold of sliding, isn't as much at those tracks. So that concrete has a lot of grip, especially, when the track is very green, like it doesn't have a lot of laps on it.
And what it makes me think of is the different pavement conditions and whatnot. And you mentioning that one of the biggest factors is weather.
Mhm.
So, what are the changes that you need to make, right? And it could be, I don't know if this is a generalization or not between Xfinity and Truck Series or, racing as you did in Europe this past year. But when rain is on the pavement,
Mm.
obviously your grip conditions are going to change if you don't make changes, and they are going to even if you do make changes.
Mhm.
What has to get taken into effect? Like, what are the changes if you're like, hey, we don't know if it's going to rain. It might rain. If it does rain, we have to do this. Obviously, from what I've gathered, we were at the Mid Ohio race last year for truck. I think that's
Yeah, I was in that
we
race. Yeah.
we were both there, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed like the tires were completely different, right? We
Mhm.
switched to some people did switch to groove tires and some didn't in that race.
Mhm.
In a vast difference. So, what are the changes that need to be made? And all of a sudden, we're like, hey, man, it's going to be a rain day. I recently started using the Mosier 2 Pro, and I got to say, this thing is a game changer in the estimating and quoting process. It's a smart measuring tool that captures dimensions, calculates areas, volumes, perimeters, and even elevation right from your device. The elevation thing is great for the paving quotes. So you have no more hand notes or second guessing whether your estimate's exactly right or not. Mosier takes all that out. I'll be using it on my estimates to create nice terrain maps, streamline my workflow, and make my quoting process more accurate than ever. So if you want to save time and add something to your quotes that separates you from your competitors and levels up your measurements, grab a Mosier 2 Pro at Mosier.com and use promo code X8Marvin or hit the link in the description.
The biggest things, obviously, you mentioned the tires. Those tires, they dissipate water. They're softer, they activate quicker. But the other part of it is, setup wise, you kind of almost go in with a bit of a soft bungee type setup. The car wants to roll more. Letting the weight roll around and move around more is a lot more important when it's raining out, just because you're able to get the weight onto the outside tire and get it to cut better. Whereas, when you have a setup that's locked down for the dry conditions, you want that weight to be able to be in the right place to help cut the car. Whereas, in rain conditions, you kind of soften everything. The car's a lot more floaty and rolly. And that's normally what makes a car drive better in the wet.
The rain when it's wet.
Mhm.
Yeah, I noticed when we were at that race, there were wide paint lines on the outside, and like
Mhm.
that turn before you hit the starting grid. That's kind of on
Yeah.
that track. You'd make that hard turn. It kind of S's back into the starting grid. Dude, I watched. I don't know how many trucks spin around when we were there.
Mhm.
They cut that corner and it hit the paint, and it was so slick because of the water that they'd spin
Yep.
into the grass right there. Tell me a little bit about racing in Europe. Like
Yeah.
I'm generally want to know because I can't imagine that was initially on your radar, right? And what are some of the highlights, some of the best memories you had from last year over in Europe?
I mean, obviously getting to run, overseas, travel the world, the biggest thing for me was when I went into this year, at the time I was 23, now I'm 24. I'm never really going to have these chances to travel the world on a consistent basis like that.
Hmm.
As I grow older, get married, have a family one day, I'm not going to be able to do that stuff. So I wanted to do it. It was a very big, important thing to me. And being able to work with the amazing folks at Bleecker Mullins Race Planet, those guys helped prepare my car at the tracks and they did a fantastic job. Ralph, Luke, all those guys, Wolfram, they were great people. And it's just cool to see how excited they got. It was fun to work with them. I got to be, you know, the uh, the American coming over and just the
Yeah.
way we do things and handle things are so much different than over there versus over there, if you have a problem with a guy, you go to the stewards and you file a complaint. Meanwhile, I'm getting out of the car and getting ready to go over there and get in their face. And
Yeah.
so it was funny. That was a big difference. And I'm not a fighter, but it was
Right.
it was just funny and stuff like that's normal here versus there. It's not. The biggest thing to me was just, like I said, being able to travel the world, see all these incredible places and drive on some really, really, really cool racetracks. And, you know, we went there, there were some areas where we were behind the eight ball, on different areas.
Mhm.
Uh, but at the same time, we went to almost every race and had a top 10 finish
Yeah.
at every track, which was good. The only one we really didn't was Italy. Well, we almost did at Valencia, but we got wrecked twice. We finished like 11th. So
Yeah.
Italy was the only one we really struggled with, but we fought mechanical gremlins all weekend that weekend. That weekend derailed our season, and there's only 7 rounds in the year out there. So
Okay.
one bad round, and you're kind of out to lunch. So if I
Yeah.
could take it all back, I would have hopefully had a better run there at Italy.
At Italy. Are the styles different? Is the racing styles different over there versus here?
The racing style is different, but the cars are similar. The car I
Oh, okay.
ran,
That's what I was curious about.
yeah, the series I ran was NASCAR Euro Series. So it was a 4-speed H pattern gearbox, similar to what we got here. They're switching to a 5-speed sequential like the next gen. So that's a new thing for them next year, and just an unbelievably fun series. I mean, I'm probably the most vocal cheerleader for the series, just in what it was. We were able to do so much with the budgets being what they were. Jerome and everybody over there, Joe Balish, and they do an incredible job getting that series moving from track to track and, putting on a great show. And not just that, but actually bringing out a lot of fans. I mean, I remember the race in the UK at Brands Hatch. We had over 55,000 fans in attendance. So
Wow.
it's a it's a really incredible series, and one that I feel is definitely slept on in terms of the public consciousness, just really because of the sense of like, oh, it's a lower NASCAR series, we don't care. But the talent over there is so high and all that stuff. I've never gotten behind the idea of a ladder system, right? Because there's guys that are racing trucks that are champions in their own right, and they never want to move up. Yeah, like
Yeah.
Matt Crafton, those guys, like they stayed in trucks their whole career because they're just really good at it and they don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
Justin Allgaier, I know he wants to race Cup, but he's an Xfinity mainstay. There's guys who make careers in these series, and same thing with NASCAR Euro. And so it was just a lot of fun to go over there and get to do that stuff and meet some very talented individuals and get to race alongside them.
You alluded to like the budget, right? And what all y'all doing with. Tell me a little bit, right, about how did you get started in racing in general?
Yeah, so I grew up, I was always a kid that liked anything with 4 wheels and a motor. I didn't care if it was NASCAR, sports cars, monster trucks, demo derbies, whatever it was. I wanted to watch it
Yeah.
because I like it. Tried other sports, I sucked at it all, and I still struggle to sit through an entire sports game. And that's just who I am. It's just not my thing. With race cars and racing, it was what I wanted to do. And I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, my dad took me to Irwindale Speedway, which unfortunately just shut down. We went there back in 2009, and we found out that kids could race in a division called Bandelero cars. And we actually saw somebody that we knew who just happened to be racing that weekend and was selling their car.
Wow.
So by just pure chance, we found out that the series existed. And it took a lot of begging and pleading, but we got a race car. My first lap on the track, I pounded the wall, and then we learned from there that this wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. But I quickly learned. It was something. It was the first time I did a sport that I wanted to do good at.
Okay.
I played baseball, played basketball, and I just begged to go home by the time we were done with the first quarter inning or whatever the heck it's called. I just was bored out of my mind, couldn't do it. But with racing, I mean, I could run laps and laps and laps for hours all day long and never get tired of it. We ended up winning the California state title 3 years in a row, including my first year of racing.
Really?
Tied for the national title in that class, and then moved up to a street stock, which was my car was a 1973 Chevy Camaro. That car is still one of my favorite cars to this day. Won a couple races in that thing, sold that, moved up to late models, won a couple races in that, and then got the call to come out to the East Coast, and the rest is history.
So
Here I am.
people keeping their eyes on late model racing and was
Oh
like,
yeah,
hey, because that's usually where the feed is going to come from.
pretty much.
Between Wiscoat, podcasting, writing, speaking, and family, I'm busy. As you can imagine, it's a lot to juggle. How do I do it? I stay organized. Jobber's been my secret weapon at my asphalt business, which takes up most of my time, but is also the force that allows me to do everything else in my schedule. That's why it's essential that Wisco runs fluidly and smooth. After making the switch to Jobber a few years ago, I simply wish I would have done it sooner. The process from when a client reaches out to when we complete a project for that customer has never been easier for us. From quoting, invoicing, scheduling, tracking hours, and even marketing, Jobbers made it all happen in one place in a way that everybody on our team can understand. If you're interested in a free 14-day trial of Jobber, an exclusive discount code for In the Mix listeners, check out the show description to find the link to try Jobber today. You and I were fortunate enough to meet and then meet there at Mid Ohio as well. And I was able to witness kind of and observe your last year. But one thing I've noticed more, um, thanks to Critical Path Security, is that you're a lot more business oriented. As things are going on. Tell me a little bit about that, of like the business side of it, because I feel like most drivers, when I speak to them, they just wanted to race, dude. Just get me in the car, somebody pay for it, let me run this thing and show you all what I can do, and
Mhm.
I'll work on that, and everybody else take care of the thing. But that's not really the case. Like most drivers, at some point, start needing support, right, and being like, "Hey, man,
Mhm.
let's be part of a team. Let's figure out how I can help you, how you can help me." Tell me a little bit about that side and what you've learned.
Basically, from 2019 to now, I've been my own salesperson, my own PR director, my own manager.
Mhm.
It's a grind to no end. You were consistently trying to convince people to support a racing endeavor. A lot of people, when you present it to them, the first thing they say is, "Why am I going to pay to put a sticker on a race car?" But at the end of the day, it's about building a campaign that works for people. The way I do these things is that the race car is the cherry on top. Everything we do behind the scenes is actually what matters. The race car is just the cool thing that's going to be in all the social media posts. If a campaign is good, if you really nail a campaign, you're you could go out lap one, turn one, and hit the wall, destroy the car, not run a single lap, and it's not going to affect anything.
Yeah.
That's how an effective campaign should be.
Mhm.
And that's the way I treat all these things, is that, if a campaign's good, it doesn't matter all that other stuff. So like you said, I do just want to drive race cars. That's the time where I'm just like, no thoughts, just vibes. I'm out there driving. But you know, at the end of the day, without the business partners that make this happen, you have to be able to, know that stuff. And so, I take into account everything that goes into it. I do a lot of time just sitting at my desk, tiddling around on my iPad, trying to send messages and try and put things together. And I am used to hearing no a lot, but at the same time, that minute you get that yes, it's going to change everything. I mean, that's how what it was with critical path security. It was we got together. Patrick heard an interview of mine on Sirius XM, and right place, right time. He wanted to do something, and we just built our partnership from there. So it takes it takes a group effort. You know what I mean? It takes the partner themselves also wanting to take a bit of a role in saying, okay, we're going to do this, and this is what we want out of it. This is how we're going to accomplish
That's
it.
what I was going to
But then
ask
it
you.
also but
Yeah.
then it also takes me coming in and executing on all fronts.
Yeah. What can a partner expect? Right. Like somebody gets approached and they're like, yeah, maybe. What can they expect when you partner with? Because I mean, like your brand right now for me is synonymous with critical path.
Yeah.
Like it's like boom. If I think of you, that's what I think of. So
Mhm.
that's obviously brand synonymity that you want to, and you're talking about an effective campaign, right? If you bank it into the wall, whatever. To be honest with you, you hit the nail on the head with social media posts. Besides being on the podium or winning the damn race, a highlight of a car getting trashed is probably the
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
most popular post, right? And that's where
Yeah.
there's going to be some recognition. But what can a partner expect, on a business side of it, if they're like getting approached by you or anybody else? I don't want you to speak for anyone else. If they're getting
Yeah.
approached by you, what can they expect in a partnership, you think?
Well, the biggest thing is, it's the fact that we got to develop a partnership catered to, whatever a company is. If that company wants, say if they're X soda company and they just want people to have the cans in their hands and get some supply out the door, then we build a program that works for them.
Okay.
We build a campaign that gets cans to people and get them to try. Whether it's, working a B2B campaign where we get them in, your local convenience store or at these, chain of supermarkets. And we, in return, they get X, what is it? X money back or whatever. Or I don't know how it works.
Yeah, or sales, whatever.
Yeah, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm stumbling over my words when I'm on the spot, but you get what I'm saying. They get X, kickback, or they get X placement on the car, something on, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
You just build that campaign for that, and then sometimes companies are, complete B2C, business to consumer. They just want to be in front of them. They just care about social media posts, and that's fine. We'll build a campaign. Others, like I said, they're B2B. They only care about the companies that, who they can network with. So it's just about tailoring it's about tailoring a campaign to the company's needs and what their end goal is.
Yeah, I think for me, being able to witness it, being, acquaintances and friends now with a lot of drivers like yourself and other drivers that are, finding success and doing things, is that you won't find, in my mind, a single individual that's going to work harder for bringing value to your dollars that you're spending in a partnership than a driver.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's literally like they know this is their lifeblood and how important it is. And I've watched yourself and other drivers, like we just get done with a race where we've been in the car for hours and hours and it's been hot or it was wet like it was at Mid-Ohio. And then they get out, comb their hair back, and they're shaking hands or, signing autographs, doing whatever. And it's like, dude, I was at one last year in Nashville, and it was like they just got out of the car and immediately we're taking photos and doing whatever and making sure that whoever they're partnered with is really, really happy. And I appreciate that as well. I'm really excited for what you're doing with Critical Path this year and all your other sponsors and whatnot that is helping you out on this journey, because, dude, if 2024 was good, 2025 is going to be fantastic. What can we see in 2025? Where are we going to find you and follow along?
None of that is announced yet, but we have a pretty good direction on things right now. I'm going to be driving race cars, and that's all that matters. I'm going to be driving good race cars, and that's all that matters.
Good.
That's the big thing to me is I want to drive race cars, and I want to drive good race cars, and I want to go drive the snot out of them and make sure that the people who support me are happy, they're excited, and they feel that they've gotten what they need out of the partnerships.
Where can we find you on social media, man, and online? Like where can we follow along and see how your journey's going?
Yeah, people could find me on Twitter, X, TikTok at Ryan Vargas _23. Instagram at RTRV23. I've tried to change that username dozens of times and it won't let me. Blue Sky, Threads, YouTube, Facebook, all of it.
LinkedIn.
You can find me there. LinkedIn especially.
Dude,
Come connect with me. Let's sling deals.
Dude, I love following you on LinkedIn. Like that's usually where my feed is. And I just like the way it's set up, the photos, the footage of the races and whatnot. It's just fantastic, dude. I'm super psyched for you in 2025. Thank you so much for joining me today, man, and providing some insight on, first of all, what pavement conditions do, and then the insight into business partnerships, because, it's more common nowadays that we're getting contractors from our industry starting to partner with some race drivers and really have a fantastic time and some fantastic campaigns.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me. And it's always fun to tell my story and, give insight onto, the ins and outs of different parts of the sport.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. I greatly appreciate it. For myself and for Ryan Vargas, we appreciate you joining us today, and we'll catch you next time. Be sure to stay in the mix. Peace. So I was recently on my way back down to Tennessee, and I was going through Indiana doing some heavy highway construction there, and I seen them paving at night, and they had these lights on the back of the paver that illuminated the whole area. You could see the skid steers, you could see the dump trucks, you could see everything. And these big balloon lights on the back came from Portable Lighting Solutions. So PLS is the only balloon light manufacturer offering a replaceable screw-in LED bulb that is field serviceable in minutes. They have a patented slide-in assembly, and they have a push to rapidly deploy mechanism. So you just push down on the light and the light pops up and is illuminated. You push it back down, it shuts off. And they're manufactured here in the USA. There's no patch kits needed. There's not a blower motor. There's no set screws, and they're UL certified. So if you're interested in putting one of these on your paver, I think I'm going to put one on the paver that we just got and probably on our seal coat unit too, so that we can seal coat at night. You can hop over to portablelightingsolutions.net and put an order in and find yours today. They are ARA members, APWA members, and Women of Asphalt members as well. Once again, that's portablelightingsolutions.net.